Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, Movie Reviews and Connections in Mind, and welcome back to another installment of I've Never Seen It Before. This is just a series of reviews that I'm doing of films that I've been meaning to see for quite some time, be they newer films or older films, whatever. I just haven't gotten around to them until now. Last time around, I got to one I've been meaning to get to for a while, Sam Raimi's original Evil Dead. And continuing on with that trilogy of his, I go now to Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2, the 1987 sequel to the original 1981 Evil Dead. Again, directed by Sam Raimi and once again starring Bruce Campbell as Ash. And this time around, I said in my review of the original Evil Dead that I had heard that the original Evil Dead was more of a horror film, which it was, and then I had said that I suspected, I had heard somewhere that both Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness were more comedy focused, and I would say that is most definitely the case with Evil Dead 2. It almost actually serves as a bit of a reboot-quel in the modern parlance that this once again features Ash going up to a cabin in the woods and facing off against a evil force that has the ability to possess bodies and do a whole bunch of other supernatural stuff, and it's up to him and a small group of others to defeat this evil once again. However, they do it in quite an interesting fashion this time around. This film was just a blast, I gotta say. While the first film, I appreciated it on a technical level. I thought it did a really good job with both filmmaking, cinematography, score, plot as well. Again, the dynamic between Ash and Linda, his girlfriend, I thought that was really good in the original one. Here, I was kind of surprised that the first, 5 or 10 minutes-ish of Evil Dead 2 is basically a retread of the last 30 minutes or so of the original movie. It's sort of a way of them, I feel like it's sort of a way of this movie saying, yes, this stuff happened, yeah, move on, that's done, now we're gonna do our own thing, and this movie's all the better for it. As I said, this movie's a blast, and I think that I had mentioned in my review of the original Evil Dead that most of the unintentional humor comes from the fact that the practical effects, while I'm sure were impressive at the time and with what limited budget Sam Raimi had, they were just laughable and they looked silly, and it was just over the top gore at the end. And this movie and Evil Dead 2 just leans hard into that, and it basically gives up any real chance of being legitimately scary. I mean, there are a couple of jump scares here or there, and that's kind of expected from a movie like this, but I thought that Sam Raimi took what he learned from the original Evil Dead, which turned out to be a giant hit, or at least it made a fair amount of money at the box office and turned into a cult classic, which basically launched Sam Raimi's career. And he took all that feedback and he learned a couple things. One, Ash is most definitely the standard character, and he was best in that movie in the last few minutes when he was essentially mugging for the camera and unintentionally acting goofy for all these things. He learned that lesson, as well as, sometimes silly works, and just kind of lean into it. And he does that in this one spectacularly. Bruce Campbell, I gotta say, he is a riot in all this film. I mean, he does play the straight man, who's kind of like the only sane man in this situation, pretty much, which is kind of an odd place for him to be, honestly. But even when he's just kind of calm or not doing really anything, it's just this film does such a good job of building in those pauses in between complete insanity, so we're not completely overloaded with all the over-the-top insanity that's going on throughout this movie. It does a really good job of pausing at just the right moments, slowing down and speeding up when it needs to. I thought that Sam Raimi did a good job. Minor quibble though, there were a couple instances where it kind of that flow kind of got jarred a little bit, especially near the beginning when we go right from the cabin in the woods with Ash right to an airport with the daughter of the people who own the cabin and her boyfriend, I guess, and then it kind of lingers on too long, and then that just kind of stops, and then once again when those two find out that the bridge has been destroyed, and you get the tow truck driver and his girlfriend, wife. They don't really say which. That scene, they're not bad scenes, but they do kind of jar you a little bit if you're from the flow that I think you were building up when you're just in the house. I mean, once that last scene with the tow truck driver on the other side of the bridge, that was the last time it really jarred you to a halt. Everything else is pretty smooth from there on out. And also, if you're like me and you see this movie and you didn't know that it was basically gonna take whatever happened in the original Evil Dead, compress it, take whatever it needed to, and throw it out. If you're really caring about canon, this really doesn't give you any of that at all. It basically throws that canon and throws it out the window and just picks up the pieces of debris that it really needed, like the fact that Ash is there. He goes up to a cabin. That's about it. And the Book of the Dead is there, and it gets read from, and the evil spirits are out. That's it. That's all you need to know from the first one, pretty much. They kind of live in their own separate worlds, and that's okay. I think I applaud Sam Raimi for making this choice. I think he did a really good job. It wasn't quite. I mean, I was expecting a more lighthearted tone, and I think I got it. And again, this is such a. I was very entertained throughout this whole thing, and now I can't wait to see Army of Darkness, because this was just awesome in my opinion. Again, like I said in my original Evil Dead review, I'm not humongous into horror films, but this subgenre of horror comedy, I'm kind of digging it. I gotta say, I'm kind of digging it. I think this is probably the first true example of a horror comedy that I've seen, so I'm excited to explore that genre further with Army of Darkness and even further. So good job, Sam Raimi. You did good. Really quick, some quick points of comparison that I made watching this film. They're more just generalizations here. Again, with these more period films, I try to only compare them to things that were coming right around the same time or before. But because these are more general things, and because I saw this older film after I saw all those newer things, I feel like there's sort of a loophole that I can use to that advantage, such as the fact that such a massive difference between 1 and 2, tone-wise, genre-wise. I could compare that pretty much to like how the Fast and Furious franchise reinvented itself from a hard, gritty action franchise with street racing to when we come to Fast 5 being the transition movie, and then beyond that you go a hard left turn into more heist comedy films with some action and cars thrown in. I thought that's a comparison to be made there. I mean, just a general point of comparison, when Ash cuts off his hand and the hand's walking around, that was probably one of the funnier moments in the movie, honestly. I mean, that's probably an homage to Thing from the Addams Family, the show, and then the movies that would come later, I guess. But probably from the show. I mean, the show was before that. And finally, this is more just a subjective thing, but am I the only one who's ever drawn a comparison between Bruce Campbell and Jim Carrey? I kind of thought that they had similar looks from the original Evil Dead to Jim Carrey in the 1990s. That sort of look. And also, when Ash is going at his demon-possessed hand and going at it, I mean, I feel like Jim Carrey saw that and just copy-pasted the bullet points of that performance and went into his film Liar Liar. That performance, I mean, it's the same basic thing, and it's awesome. I loved it. So those are just some general points of comparison. I'm sure there are others to be made from older films that have come before, other horror comedies that were inspired by this, I'm sure. I haven't seen those. I haven't seen all the movies, clearly. But overall, what did you think of Evil Dead 2? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Anything quibbles to be made about my points of comparison? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss anything? As I said, I haven't seen all the movies. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next, I've never seen it before. As I said, it will be for Army of Darkness. I can't wait to see that and can conclude this Evil Dead trilogy. in my next new release movie review, which will be for Terminator Dark Fate, which comes out November 1st. Be sure to look for all of that. And if you like what you see in this video or any video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.